If you cannot press money, clear! That was the line that ruled our village, like a bell that never lost its echo. The moment it dropped across the compound of Prestige Hearts College, chatter thinned, footsteps slowed, and even the wind seemed to pay attention. People didn't need to ask who said it. Everybody knew the owners of that sentence: Bella, Mimi, and Zara, the iPhone sisters. Prestige Hearts wasn't just a school, it was a badge families wore on their names. Parents sold goats, pawned jewelry, called cousins abroad for loans, anything to afford those fees. The gates stood tall and painted, the lawns trimmed like a general's haircut, and the teachers moved with the stiff importance of people who marked futures with red pen. But inside those clean halls, power wasn't the principal's voice or the bell's timing. Power had 3 faces and 10 perfect fingernails. Bella was the mouth and the magnet. She spoke first, laughed loudest, and cut deepest. Compliments like candy, insults like razor. Mimi was the velvet knife, a master of temperature. She could warm a room with a whisper or freeze it with a rumor. If she tilted her head at you, half the class would tilt theirs too. Zara was the quiet blueprint, the keeper of clocks and plans. She timed their entrance, arranged their outfits by color and mood, decided which corridor was most strategic at which hour. Together, they turned seconds into spotlights. Perfume followed them like a chorus. Heels clicked like a metronome. Then Bella's hand would flick up, and the line would drop. If you know press money, clear! And the courtyard would answer, half worship, half fear. From iPhone 6 to iPhone 16, Pro Max, they never missed a launch. Before the tech blogs finished typing specs, the girls were already taking pictures at the gate, the sun catching the new lenses like blessings. Parents asked careful questions. The girls gave softer answers. An aunt abroad. A gift. Hard work. People nodded because it was easier than peering into shadows. Besides, mystery made the crown shine brighter. There was another girl in that story, though, one whose name wasn't chanted, but whose steps were steady. Nina. She was the kind of pretty that grows on you, the kind made of neat braids, clean collars, and a gaze that didn't flinch. Her parents ran a provision shop near the bus stop, the kind of place where people paid with coins and conversations. Night after night, they counted both. Nina loved words, loved mornings, loved the feeling of being early. But she carried a quiet ache, the ache of standing outside the circle that seemed to matter. So she made a plan. She began to save. She saved with the stubbornness of somebody who has told herself the same promise too many times to break it now. She trekked to school when she could have taken kike. She accepted stew without meat and smiled like it was a choice. She braided younger girls' hair on Saturdays until her fingers cramped, washed plates after church meetings, swept her parents' shop, and told them to keep the change. Every night she opened an old Milo tin under her bed, dropped the day's small victories, and whispered, "One day." When temptation came, a pair of sandals in the market, a classmate's birthday outing, she breathed through it. Phone first, she told herself. The rest later. 6 months is a long time when you are hungry and hopeful. But the day arrived. She bought an iPhone 8 Plus. The box felt like a ceremony. She held it the way people hold newborns, awkward, careful, reverent. That night, she ironed her uniform twice, polished her shoes until she could see herself blink, and charged the phone to a shining, unwavering 100%. In the mirror, she practiced, not too proud, not too small. "Hi, girls," she rehearsed. "I admire you. I can add value. I speak well, I dress well, I fit." Sleep came late and thin. Morning spread across the campus like warm paint. The hibiscus flowers at the walkway glowed red, and the half-circle of admirers, already gathered around the sisters, hummed like a generator. Nina walked forward. Her heart tried to outrun her, but her feet kept time. "Hi, girls," she began, calm as she could make it. "I admire your group. I think I carry myself well, and I believe I can add value." Mimi's lips curved, polite and dangerous. Zara's arms folded like a closed book. Bella tilted her head with an almost kind curiosity. "Show us your phone," Mimi said, voice sweet like a trap. Nina reached into her bag and brought out the iPhone 8 Plus. It caught the morning light obediently. For 1 second there was a pause, the small quiet before a curtain falls. Then the laughter broke. Too loud for morning, too sharp for school. Bella took the phone and held it up as though she'd found a relic in the sand. "An iPhone 8 Plus?" she said, letting the words echo. "Even my grandma fit used this for WhatsApp status. Our house helped I use iPhone 12 Pro Max," Mimi added, sympathy pasted like gloss. "This one be museum piece." Zara's voice didn't rise, and that made it worse. "Prestige Hearts is about standards," she said softly. "So is our circle." This doesn't meet them. The courtyard fed on the moment. Someone clapped. Someone whistled. A boy's voice rang out. "Nina the archaeologist." A girl sang under her breath. "Ancient of Days phone." A teacher adjusted his tie and turned away like the timing of the sun required his attention. Nina felt heat crawl up her neck. But nah, still iPhone," she tried, the words wobbling. "Not good enough," Bella said, passing the phone back without the courtesy of a careful hand. Bella's arm rose, the chorus followed like reflex. "If you no press money." And the school answered, "Clear." Nina ran then, past the shrubs and the tap and the notice board, where posters bragged about debates and spelling bees. Behind the lab, she let the tears come, the kind that yank at your ribs. After school, she took the phone back to the shop, accepted the loss like medicine, and pressed the cash into her father's palm. "For rent," she said. No camera, no caption, no applause. Just a girl keeping her house standing. The village hummed because villages hum. They hold stories like basins hold water, and the lip of one basin tips easily into the next. "How those girls get money?" a market woman asked, weighing tomatoes and gossip with equal care. "Maybe na luck," someone said. "Maybe na God," another tried, then added, "but he get as a bee." In the barber's shop, a boy swore his cousin's friend's neighbor knew a politician. In church, under the fan that turned like a lazy question mark, a mother told her daughter, "Face your books, phone no day cook soup." The daughter nodded without listening. Night knows what day pretends not to know. Every Friday, the sisters waited until their houses went quiet. Bella had oiled the hinge until it forgot how to complain. Mimi slipped a makeup bag into a tote. Zara checked the street, once, twice, thrice, the way pilots check skies. They shrugged on jackets over short dresses, sprayed perfume that announced more than it masked, and left. The bus to the neighboring town grumbled like an old secret. The club greeted them with glass and bass, and men who could afford not to blink. The first time they trembled in the glow of neon and attention. A man waved them over. Another ordered drinks. A third slipped cash into a palm like a pact. Fear turned to numbers. Numbers turned to plans. "This is how we stay queens," Bella murmured, eyes lit like a billboard. "We're not selling ourselves," Mimi rationalized. "We're investing." Zara nodded once, the way people nod when they are translating guilt into strategy. Phone is asset. Respect is the return. They believed it just enough to move. Habit grew a spine. Week 5 felt like routine. Week 8 felt like a system. They learned which table bought silence, which smile bought a door, which hotel smelled like fresh carpets, and which smelled like old consequences. On Mondays, they arrived at school newer than the weekend. Phones wrapped in cases that matched shoes, lips slicked with colors that claimed victory. When parents asked, the answers were softer than the questions. Auntie abroad? A gift. God's favor. People prefer illusions that let them sleep. Then Janet transferred in. She had the look of someone who pays attention, the kind of stillness that gathers. She was from that neighboring town, and recognition is a hard habit to unlearn. The first day she saw the three at the gate, she frowned lightly, as if memory were a mosquito at her ear. She watched for a week, 2. The anklet Zara forgot to remove on Fridays. The perfume Mimi favored. The way Bella's laughter dipped on a certain note. Doubt packed up. Certainty unpacked. She might have left it alone. People do, often. But arrogance likes to write its own ending. One afternoon, Bella brushed past Janet hard enough to tilt her balance. "A bag," Bella said brightly. "If you know press money, clear from our space." The corridor laughed, because laughter is cheap and contagious. Janet didn't argue. She planned. On Saturday, she went back to the town, walked into the club in a scarf and a careful face, and bought a soda she didn't drink. Her phone recorded without commentary. Bella at a table leaning in like a promise. Mimi taking money with a practiced grace. Zara whispering to a man in native with a ring mark on his finger, and no ring. Proof doesn't need adjectives. Monday assembly felt different from the first bell. Heat clung to uniforms. The principal's voice had too much warning in it. Janet stepped forward without waiting to be called. "I have something everyone should see," she said steady. She held up the phone. The speakers made the club feel too close, the bass like a low accusation. Faces were clear. Movements were clear. Choices were clear. Gasps hit the sew, air like stones. A teacher dropped a pen. Someone muttered, "God forbid." Bella's bravado fell from her like a loose earring. Mimi's smile didn't know where to sit. Zara looked at nothing in particular and everything at once. The chant that rose was sour. Crowds love crowns. They love collapses more. "If you know press shame, clear!" someone yelled, and the hunger in it was uglier than the words. The sisters left the assembly in a hurry that wasn't regal. That evening, the village finished the story the video started. Mothers wept quietly over stoves. Fathers spoke in voices that sounded like breaking table legs. Doors closed. Phones were confiscated. Apologies were demanded. Offered. Rejected. Shame is heavier than any object you can hold. On the fourth night, Bella said what the others had been thinking. "We can't stay." In the city, nobody knows our names, Mimi packed with hands that shook. Zara plotted which bus, which stop, which rooming house. At midnight, they lifted the same oiled hinge and walked out, not for nightlife this time, but for oblivion. The city does not care who you were on a village morning. They rented a square of air with 4 tired walls and one window that let in more heat than light. 10 families shared a bathroom that closed with hope and a wedge of wood. The landlord's wife knew everyone's business by the way they carried their buckets. Neighbors invented nicknames before learning names. "Phone girls," someone said, watching them pass with glossy rectangles and paper bags of noodles. "Na phone dem one chop?" Another scoffed. They went back to what they knew. New clubs, brighter lights, colder rules. They learned which neighborhoods whispered and which ones screamed. They learned the art of returning at dawn without leaving footprints. They learned what hunger does to reason. And then, one hot afternoon, when the room felt smaller than their breathing, Mimi burst in with a voice that forgot to be careful. "Girls! iPhone 17, Pro Max on drop!" Hope is a dangerous fuel. They wanted to be themselves again, wanted the weight of a box in their hands, the spotless reflection, the post with the right caption, and the wrong lesson. They said yes to nights they would have bargained down to maybe months ago. A wealthy man promised a figure big enough to turn no into yes, then bigger still. "One night," he said, "you won't forget it." He paid in advance. He smelled like new leather and old sins. Morning found him gone and the money real. They moved like thieves toward the store and came out carrying miracles. For a while, they were new again. The phones were smooth as lies. Pictures at the window, videos in the hallway, posts about discipline and hustle and vision. Their neighbors' eyes rolled. Their hearts rolled back the clock and believed. Consequences keep better time than clocks. Zara woke at 3 a.m., scratching so hard she left red moons on her skin. She boiled salt water and hissed as it stung, then slept, then scratched again. Bella lit scented candles because something in the room smelled wrong, a rotten note under the air. Mimi began waking with a scream sitting on her tongue. Dreams crawled as if they had legs. They told each other stories. City water. Stress. New soap. They told themselves lies with the same fluency that used to save them. The morning truth decided to stop being polite. Zara screamed like a siren. They ran to her and found a horror their mouths did not know how to name. Small white wriggles, impossible and undeniable. They checked themselves because fear is contagious. It was not just Zara. Hospitals first, because science is a comfort until it isn't. Tests, swabs, questions asked with careful grammar. The results said nothing. Medically, you look fine, the doctor said, a sentence that belongs in jokes, not lives. But we are not fine, Bella snapped, voice cracked. The doctor took off his glasses and put them on again. I can refer you, he offered, which is what people say when rooms run out of answers. Church is next because hope wears many uniforms. Prayers shouted into their hair. Oil like second sweat. Declarations. Instructions. Sow a seed. They sowed. The ground did not answer. Herbs next, because old knowledge lives in leaves. Boils, pastes, steam baths over bowls that made the room a fever. The neighbors coughed theatrically at the smell and banged doors with the enthusiasm of a choir. Children peeped and sang, anti-maggot, until someone's mother dragged them away by the ears and whispered, Don't mock people's day of tears. The landlord announced, This building no be clinic, in a voice that had practiced being cruel. They sold one phone, then the second, then the last. The second-hand shop boy counted out cash with bored fingers, while Bella tried not to remember who she had been holding the week before, instead of this dirty envelope. Back in the village, the story arrived overlapping with other stories like patterned fabric. You hear? A butcher asked without looking up from his knife. City Don show them pepper? Na fake life, someone answered. Phone we know de fry plantain go still disgrace you. Nina kept breathing like a metronome. She studied. She won a literature prize and almost didn't go on stage because she had taught herself not to crave crowds. A teacher handed her a novel with an apology hiding behind a smile and said, Keep going. At home, her parents clapped the way people clap at weddings, and Nina laughed into her hands, surprised by how light it felt to be praised without a phone. As for the iPhone sisters, there came a day when noise ran out. They sat in their heat-lit room with the window cracked open to a street that did not care and counted nothing. Not money, not plans, not followers. Then they bought bus tickets with the last of what they had and came home with their faces under caps and their backs a little bent. They went to the stream first because water has a memory for those who need it. It moved as if nothing had happened because in the water story, nothing had. Bella crouched and touched the surface, eyes bright with salt. If I could rewind, she started. I would not have laughed at that girl, Mimi said, her voice thinning out like old cloth. I would not have sold my soul for a handset, Zara finished, and for once there was no strategy, only truth. They stood there until silence finished its work. Then they walked home to parents whose anger was braided with fear and love. The village still talked. Villages always do. But the words seemed to hit from farther away, like rain you can see falling on the next street. Time took up the slow labor of mending. They learned small things again. How to greet without performing, how to apologize without bargaining, how to pass a mirror without asking it to tell a lie. Some days were better. Some were the kind of bad that makes your bones ache.